All right, guys, welcome back to another episode on the podcast. We've got yet another special guest for you guys today. We're going to be talking to my good buddy up in Wisconsin, Cody Solberg. Cody's got an up-and-coming YouTube channel, does a lot of Livescope stuff. He just started guiding last year, so we're going to kind of bounce around. We're just having a good chat. No real structure to the conversation, just two like-minded fishing individuals having a chat. So hope you guys enjoy this one. We'll see you at the end of the episode. All right, man. Well, we're just going to kick this off right away. We have my good buddy up in the North Country, Cody Solberg. Cody, tell me about the last time we saw each other in person to kick the conversation off and why it was so bad yet so good at the same time.
Oh man, I don't even know how I explain it. I mean, we were half dead, I feel like, when we were talking.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, I met last time I seen you, we were up in O'Connell. We were doing some fishing, and the boys allowed me to crash in the garage overnight because I had
At
a
the
guide trip
spot.
the next day and I didn't feel like driving all the way back home. And yeah, I know I remember being extremely tired.
I was so bummed. I felt so bad. That just
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
but that was the one night where like my buddy DJ and I had to like, because that day was like a blow day, all things considered. Like it was so windy that day, and we'd like went out, and you and I had talked about, we were like, let's meet up and fish the Fox that
yeah,
night. And then earlier that day, you're like, you know what? Fuck the Fox. The
yeah.
full moon, like the big girls are moving up. Let's go out on the bay. And the wind laid down, and you were guiding, and we just were railing that night with the full moon.
Yeah, dude, I was actually really glad I was able to convince you to do that. And I told my buddy before we even went out, it was like, fuck, it must have been like noon. And I told him, I said, yeah, I'm gonna convince Brian to go and do a night set
Doesn't take
because
much convincing with me.
yeah, I just figured it was gonna happen. Everything was setting up perfect. It was still damn windy, probably all the way up until like 9 o'clock and
Oh, it was big
at
time. Like
night.
it was,
Yeah,
dude, that whole day it was just such a shit show.
yeah.
But
It
we
was
caught him.
It was freaking brutal there for a while, but yeah, we were catching fish, and then once it laid down, man, it just went nuts. It was like
Yeah.
couldn't keep boards in the water.
No, that's like our first like text to each other that night was like you texted me, and like DJ and I were like balls deep in the middle of a quadruple even at one point on our
Yeah,
first pass. It's like that's how the whole
yeah.
rest of the night went.
But I felt like I'm like I gotta text them to see if they're getting them because if they're not, he's got to come over here. You
Yeah.
know. So then when I texted you that, and you're like, yeah, we can't even keep lines in the water. I'm like, all right, good. We're both on the same page.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
That's like for the viewers listening, I am from the North Country, but I don't live there. But I have a pretty good idea of what to do when it comes to pulling big stick baits at night with planer boards and stuff. So you guys have already seen that video. If you haven't, I'm going to link it right up here in this podcast so you can go watch the absolute gong show that was trolling at night. Like both me and my buddy's headlamp. Well, he forgot his in the truck. Mine was dead. It was a brand new situation that I just bought, and so he had like one light plus my LEDs in the boat, and it was just like, I don't know. Cody, you saw the video. It was just a total everything was.
Yeah, yeah, it was all over the place between the wind noise and the walleyes falling in the boat and boards
Yeah.
going back. It was nuts. And I wish I would have filmed that night. And I did ask my clients if it was all right to film, and they said, yeah, go ahead. And yeah, my dumbass forgot all my camera gear at home, so it didn't happen. But it was one of those nights too where it's like, man, would I have even wanted to deal with cameras at this point?
Right.
It's just kind of one of those
That's what I
things.
felt like too. And that's what I always tell everyone. It's like I do the same thing. Like if I could have my camera gear in the truck the whole time, every single guide trip, but it's all a matter of like it does it make it in the boat? Maybe. Does it make it from the garage to the truck to the boat? Maybe not. But we're
Right.
full-time fishing guides, not full-time YouTubers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So, anyway, yeah, just a fun little backstory from recently with Cody and I. But yeah, Cody and I stayed up. I got back to the shop at midnight, and you had just gone to bed. Jordan Marsh from Fox River was there, and Herf and DJ, and maybe there was one other dude there. I don't even remember, but I can't come back to the shop and just like be like, all right, well, I'm gonna put the boat away and go to bed. Like I'm that kind of person where I have to like unwind for a bit. And unfortunately for you, you're right there on the couch and not up in the living quarters in the shop. So we sat and talked till 1:30 in the morning when Cody had a guide trip in the morning, and we were gonna get up early that next morning too to head out and run north from Ocano. So yeah.
Oh my God.
It was worth it though. Launch? It was worth it.
You remember the launch the next morning?
Oh, dude.
What a fucking mess.
Oh my God. I mean, unfortunately, it's not going to get any better. Like this is probably, have you seen breakwater that bad? Like in the last couple of years?
Personally, I don't think I've ever seen it like that bad. It's been bad before. But the cold water, like the cold weather that morning and the ice combined with all the people, it made it an even bigger mess than normal.
It was bad. I mean, it was cold, but like compared to when we came up last year, almost the same week, maybe it was like 3 or 4 days before. I mean, we had a couple days where it was like 12 degrees when we put the boat in at Breakwater. Or no, we were putting it at Park 2 because Breakwater wasn't open yet. And then one day we put in on the river, the yacht club or whatever launch down river on the Ocano. But yeah, that morning that we both put in, I mean, luckily you got there first and I was waiting on DJ forever that morning, but it didn't really matter because everybody was waiting. It was like the Rainy River on Birchdale or Baudette, like trucks from a mile down the highway. And then the landing being a complete sheet of ice. What a shit show. Yeah, but we caught him that day, and that was the day I caught the sturgeon too, I think, because we both ran up to Peshtigo or up that way, and whew.
Yeah. I mean, when I was sitting there waiting for my clients to get there, just watching people go in and out of the launch, there was a couple guys that they ate shit. They stepped right out of their truck and their feet just went sliding out from under them, you know.
That was the story that I told. Like we were sitting there. Well, you were already sitting right there, like the first boat at the pier. Yeah. And then DJ was putting me in, and he was going back real slow. And this guy in this little tiny Lund was getting ready to put in his son was in the driver's seat of the boat, and his dad was in the truck and hopped out of the truck to unclip the boat. And he took one step, and then the second step went just assholes to elbows. And he hit the ground so hard you could have heard him on the east side of Green Bay.
Yeah. Well, he just laid there for a second too, because his head hit. Yeah. And he just laid there contemplating life for a second. And I think he was trying to decide whether he wanted to still go fishing or not. But
that's what I would have done.
He had to have like a minor concussion after that because he hit the ground pretty damn hard.
Yeah. That one, like, well, it was like I was telling you, and when I got the boat in, we were sitting there, and I was like, man, when I watched that, it made me sick to my stomach. He hit the ground so hard. Like,
yeah, right.
And just thinking about like my dad too. Like if that was my dad, we 100% would have been done for the day. Like, well, okay, that was fun. 100%. Now we're done.
And I would have felt a lot worse than I felt for that guy. Not saying that I didn't feel bad for that guy, because he knew the landing was icy because he had already slipped the first time.
Yeah.
You know, so I think he was getting frustrated because they were having issues getting their boat off the trailer.
Dude, well, because he had the tie down still attached. He was trying to back it off the trailer with the tie downs on yet. We've all been there. Everyone listening to this podcast, whether you forgot the plug, forgot one tie down, if not both of them, or just forgot to unclip it from the front. We've all been there. Yeah. We all do it.
Yep. Yeah, it was brutal. But yeah, he was just having a bad day. Hopefully they caught some fish to make their day better.
I hope so too. That same guy in that Lund, his son, before his dad ate shit and DJ was backing me, and I was standing there and I was just watching them for a second. And then I turned around, the guy goes, Tom? And I was like, no, I'm Brian. And he's like, oh, I thought you were Tom Boley. That's like the third time that's happened. Every time I go up to Green Bay, somebody think like between the Sims gear and like the beard and I don't know, my facial structure. Like when I caught that fish, that walleye, the guys from Minnesota, that 3 years ago or whatever, for the first half of that interaction, they thought I was Tom Boley the whole time.
No freaking way.
Because I had like the GoPro set up and like the camera and everything. I thought it was really funny, but I'll take that. But
Yeah, I
anyway,
mean,
let's reel that conversation back. We'll double back to that Green Bay conversation. I just wanted to start this conversation off, and this is kind of the difference between having somebody on the podcast that I know personally versus somebody that I don't know personally. Like the guys that I have on the podcast, it kind of turns more into an interview. Those guys that I don't really know that well, but when I have guys on the podcast that I know, it just is, we're just shooting the shit and we're just talking about different topics. So,
yeah.
you guys that are watching probably saw the last one with Craig Johnson, the KDWP fisheries biologist here in Kansas, which, we've talked before, but I don't know him very well. And I had a lot of questions lined up. So it was more like an interview versus a couple guys shooting the shit, which is what I like, a podcast to be. So that's kind of how Cody and I's conversation today is going to roll. But just to kind of kick this off between us, just for the viewers listening, introduce yourself, give your background, plug all your socials just right off the bat too, because I know a lot of people are going to want to go to your channel and subscribe just based on the content. That's like the conversation that we had when we were sitting there at 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning talking is all your Green Bay, your walleye videos, the Fox River, the Bay, everything has just been exploding in these past like 6-8 months, maybe even more. So I think that's super awesome. And that's like what I told you too. I'm like, that's like maybe not like as many subscribers as you deserve, but at the same time, the way that YouTube's going right now, subscriber count doesn't really matter. Doesn't make a shit either way, because the views are there, and that's how, people who are YouTubers or trying to make money on YouTube make their money. So, you've just started guiding. So yeah, like I said, I'm drinking bourbon, so I'm going to ramble a little bit. So you just give your background, take it away.
Yeah, well, I mean, to make a longer story kind of short, I really didn't expect to make it to where I am right now. When I started doing the whole YouTube thing, quite a few years back now, I was probably 17, maybe even 18. I was actually just out of high school. And I had played around with a camera and video editing and stuff like that kind of prior to doing the whole fishing thing. I used to do like a lot of like short films and stuff that I don't really talk about a lot because it was really cringy, but kind of taught me the way of like video editing in a whole. But like 17, 18 years old, I just picked up a camera. I had fallen in love with fishing. I've always been into fishing. Obviously, my grandpa and my dad, they got me into it pretty heavy at a young age. So I was always spending, a lot of time out on the water with them, and even on the banks of rivers, creeks, lakes, anything that I could get my hands on to go and just catch fish, I was doing. And one day I just decided to take a camera along with me. I mean, I was kind of inspired by some of the younger guys that were doing it on YouTube already. And I'm like, yeah, I could do that. I used to do the whole camera thing, vlogging and stuff like that. So I thought, why not take a camera with me fishing and do some content of like me catching fish, So kind of just started doing that, and eventually one way or the other, I kind of started getting noticed a little more on YouTube. Like I was posting content from the Fox River catching walleyes. And I mean, it was stupid content, Brian. It was like, just content that I would strap a GoPro on my head or on my chest, just go out and fish. Right. And then later put it into like Adobe Premiere and just put music behind it.
Right.
Cringy videos that I just thought would be cool for my family and friends and stuff to watch, Well, later kind of eventually started getting a little bit of traction with that. I had people watching it. Some of these videos were getting like 9, 10,000 views. And it kind of sparked something inside of me like, hey, maybe I should start posting more videos, just to kind of get a little bit more traction. People started noticing me. I had other YouTubers kind of reaching out, wanting to do like collabs and stuff like that I thought was super cool at the time. Like, ooh, I'm collaborating with somebody that's got 2,000 subscribers on YouTube. Like I felt like a big dick at the time, But yeah, I mean, I kind of took it with a grain of salt. I didn't really know exactly what I was getting into. I mean, had I known now what the opportunity could have been like back then, I probably would have dug into it just a little bit harder. Because in reality, I kind of got into it when a lot of the YouTubers on YouTube kind of started doing their thing with the whole
Yep.
fishing industry. So if I would have took it a little bit more seriously when I didn't really know what the hell I was doing, I probably would be bigger than I am today with it.
Yeah.
But that's probably almost a blessing in disguise at this point, because
Exactly.
I am super happy, with where I am today and how
Yeah.
far I've come. And a lot of my content has escalated into, fairly better produced videos. They're not like Jay Siemens or a lot of those guys that are really great at, telling stories on the water.
Hmm.
A lot of what I do is just like to go out and fish and educate people. Pretty much
Yep.
a lot of, of the same kind of content that you're posting.
Hmm.
Which is why I think a lot of your viewers are also my viewers, and everything just kind of commingles that way. But um, yeah, now I'm really just trying to focus more on like educational content when it comes to basically walleyes. I really got into the salmon and trout fishing thing really heavily too on Lake Michigan, seeing as though it's in my backyard right there, and
Yep.
just I'm somehow getting into these algorithms with YouTube that are just getting me way more views than I would have ever thought, with the amount of subscribers I have. So, like you said before, you really can't place a benchmark on just how many subscribers you have, because I mean the views are really endless.
Yep.
It really just comes down to the content that you're posting, the thumbnails that you're using, and the
Yeah.
story that you're trying to tell throughout the video. So
Yeah.
but yeah, so I mean, for those of you that don't know, my name is Cody Solberg. I run a YouTube channel called Cody S, and then like Brian said, I'm also a fishing guide here in Green Bay too as well. I just started doing that last year was actually my first full year guiding, and then I'm going on my second year right now, and it's going really well. YouTube plays a big part into my success. Obviously, posting that content on YouTube, having people watch it there, and then wanting to book the trips with me later is a big part of my success. So I don't necessarily use YouTube, for anything besides the fact of trying to stay relevant
Yeah.
right now, and get those, really try to show people what they're getting when they come out in the boat with me,
Right.
fish on
Big
those
time.
guided trips. So
Hmm.
that's that's kind of me in a nutshell, my life, I guess. I mean, a short version of it.
Yeah. Well, and that's like, I always say the same thing, like on my videos too. Like, full time fishing guide, number one, content creator, number two. And, it's like, it's tough to go out and make a video and be like, okay, how much thought do I have to put into the thumbnail and this, that, and the other? And like, half of me is like, okay, I do care. And then the other half is like literally 50-50, like I don't care, because the videos are just there as a bonus. Like I have always enjoyed video editing. My YouTube channel goes back like all the way to 2004 or 2005, like when I was making skateboarding videos back in the day. And
Yeah.
then fishing got popular, like GoPros came out, and then it was just like, that's like what you were talking about earlier, where you would just like go out, put a GoPro like on your windshield or like a chesty or whatever, and just go fish and like throw it in the timeline and then just put the video out. That was like fish porn. And that's
Yep.
how everything got started in the
Yep.
YouTube fishing game. And that's like how I started. But then vlogging got more popular and like talking to the camera about what you're doing. And I was like, I'm not like super into that. But then like I realized that I had to like get on the bus or get run over type situation.
Exactly.
So I just like started doing it and getting more comfortable with it. And now it's like, we do one or two podcasts a month and like two or three fishing videos a month. And like, that's all just for fun, because obviously the livelihood comes from being a fishing guide, and any revenue from YouTube and everything past that, sponsors wise or everything, is just like passive income, and we go on vacation with that stuff. And at the end of the day, if there was no monetization on YouTube, I would still make videos because I enjoy doing it and putting out that content and making stuff happen. So
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, I mean, and I give credit to anybody that's trying to make a living out of doing YouTube,
yeah.
because it is definitely not as easy as everybody makes it seem like it is.
Yeah.
Or I should say, there's a lot of people that always ask me like, "Oh, it must be nice to do this," and it's like, you don't really realize how much we don't make
Yeah,
on YouTube, when we're doing this content. I mean, I love video editing. I love going out and filming the videos for people. I love meeting people at the boat launch and having
big
them tell
time.
me that they watched my videos and stuff.
Hmm.
That's why I do it. I'm not necessarily really doing it for the money. Like you said, yeah, it's nice. You can save that money up and go on vacation with it, but that's not why you're doing it,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So
That's it. Yeah, it's just all just a bonus, and I mean, you find that weird balance of like, okay, I'm guiding a lot, and I'm like, oh my god, I it's been like 7 days since I put a video out. Like, what do I have to do? But at the end of the day, as full-time fishing guides, it's like that's the first priority is focusing on that. And like, if you have a regular couple clients out or whatever, people that come out with you 3 or 4 times a year, that's when I make sure to put the camera in the boat because they love, they watch the YouTube channel. That's maybe how they found us was from the
yep.
YouTube channel. So if we can make a video, just like throw some cameras up, it's a super chill trip. Obviously regulars are easier to have in the boat than new clients.
Right.
I'm not going to throw cameras up and put that pressure on them with new clients, but yeah, it's just fun. I don't know. That's just like YouTube is weird and everything is weird. I know where my algorithm is at as it pertains to what gets my channel the most views, but do I want to do that year round? No. Because
Right.
it revolves around Livescope and crappies. And that happens for like 2.5 months out of all of 12 months of the year. And
Yeah.
that's when I put those out. Like that slip bobber video with my 9-year-old stepson. There's no live scope, but it had the word crappies in it, and it's springtime and they're spawning, and that video is doing great.
Yeah.
It's like I'm not gonna do that all year because we're getting into peak walleye season, especially. So
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah. I
funny how
remember
that
you
stuff
saying
works,
that.
and I just don't care that much.
Yeah. I remember you saying that night that the crappie videos do really well
Yep.
for you. You just love crappie fishing.
Yeah, but I mean that's how my channel started gaining traction was Garmin / Livescope tutorials. Like literally me, like the very first one that I ever did for like the very first like EchoMap UHD units that came out 4 or 5 years ago or whatever. I was sitting next to my wife on the couch and I was like, there's like no videos on YouTube of like tutorials on these Garmin units. Like, what if I just went out and like talked to the camera and like pointed it at the screen and it was like going through settings? It'll be like a really bad video and I'm pretty sure it's not going to do very well, but I feel like I have to do it. And I took
Yeah.
the dogs out on the boat. We just like did like this, I was out there for like 45 minutes, made like a 15 or 16-minute video. And now that video has like over 300,000 views on YouTube, and now all my algorithm has now become the Garmin tutorial, the live scope stuff, all that. And it's like,
Yep.
if I could, I mean, all my Green Bay videos, like catch a 30.5-inch walleye, like epic day, or like all, the 2 or 3 epic days we had up on the bay this year. I mean, they pale in comparison to catching
Yeah.
panfish with live scope.
It is crazy how YouTube works, man. It's like you'd think, a 30-inch walleye, you'd think that would be the one getting, 300,000 views, but
Right.
instead it's crappie fishing, and it's strictly because that's the algorithm that YouTube chooses to put you in.
Yep. Yep.
It's freaking
It is
crazy.
what it is, and I'm jealous that your algorithm is all walleyes, and you get the most views from. You could have a tough day and catch 5 or 6 walleyes. Like 21 to 27-inch fish, and it's
Yep.
going to be amazing. But I could, catch 100 in one day, and it's going to pale in comparison to yours. But that is just how. For everybody listening and wondering how YouTube works, that's just how YouTube works. Like the algorithms. You get into that rhythm, and if you do it full time, you figure it out, and then you ride that, and that's just what you do. But
Yep.
for
You gotta
guys that
ride it
don't
out,
do it full
man.
time, it's different.
Gotta ride it out.
Yep. So anyway, talk to me about your guide schedule coming up here, and that's like I guess one main topic of conversation that I kind of had on my mind for our talk here. So for everybody listening, up on Green Bay, the way that things kind of transition is that depending on the ice out, so we'll start in March. The ice goes out on the Fox River or any tributaries on the west shore of Green Bay in March at some point. And, everybody's obviously been ice fishing those tribs all of March, and then the ice goes out, they can get in the boat. So it starts on the river. All those walleyes are pushing in from the big water on Lake Michigan up into the tributaries to spawn. So you get that big push of fish in, not too many like super, super giants, especially during the day. A lot of those big fish are caught at night. And then as soon as the ice goes out on the west shore of Green Bay, everybody's outside of the mouths of the rivers. That usually lasts. I mean, you can obviously still go out on the west shore right now and catch some post spawners, but it's probably warming up pretty quick there, so those fish are probably moving. Oh, yeah. But that being said, all your pre-spawn walleye guys that are fishing the west shore, as soon as those fish dump into the river to spawn, everyone on the west shore is hoping for the east shore in Door County for that ice to get out to catch more giants, because everything on Lake Michigan is different. Not everything is happening at the same time, and that's why I love it so much. So we started out like when we hung out and fished and everything, that was the pre-spawn bite. And then, I mean, it wasn't even, like a week after that, the weather up there was like in the 70s the week after I left. And a lot of those fish went up into the river and dumped, and then everybody was catching post-spawners. So from there, then the Door County ice went out, and then everybody was going to the east shore to catch pre-spawners. So it's fun to see kind of how that stuff transitions. But I digress. So right now for your guide season, you're fishing mainly at the east shore, obviously, right now, or what's kind of your schedule here for the next, I don't know, month of May?
Dude, it's been crazy, and I will say Green Bay is a really unique fishery just because of the tiers, that you go through. Starting actually from this year, it was already in February that we were on open water in the Fox River.
In the Fox,
the middle of February.
Mm-hmm.
So this was, I mean, obviously a ton earlier than last year's guide season started for me, but I mean, I was booking trips pretty much late February on open water in the Fox River, and I didn't see it coming. But I'm really glad that it happened, because then that gave me like a whole extra, basically half a month, to run guided trips on the Fox before actually going out onto Green Bay, because obviously of the ice on Green Bay. But no, it's super neat being able to kind of chase the fish up. You can get pre-spawners in the Fox River pretty much almost all the way through mid-March, depending on what the water temps do, and then just chase pre-spawners from, like you said, Oconto, Door County, even up into Michigan waters too, once the seasons open up. So it is really unique. Right now, the Bay is on fire right now. I mean, you could pretty much go anywhere. You could go to the west side, you could go to the east side, you could go as far north as you wanted. Obviously within the the open seasons.
So you're saying that we shouldn't go to the Ford River 3 weeks ago?
Probably shouldn't do that. I'm not saying
we're not going to get into that.
Everybody knows what happens. But then, even Lower Bay, and if a guy really wanted to, he could still fish the Fox River and catch resident fish, that are sticking around in the river too as well. But I mean, right now with the water temps just skyrocketing, I mean, the last 2 days, it's just been flat calm. And, we've had 70 to 75 degree days that is just warming that surface temp up abruptly fast, So, yeah, I mean, any shallow shoreline right now, you'll find fish. But eventually here, as soon as that water does start to warm up a little quicker,
they're going out.
Fish are they're just going to keep kind of bumping out to deeper water. And some people might, struggle to, find those fish, but it turns more into, a deeper water bite. And, that's why people are calling us to get them out there and teach them the ropes on that kind of stuff, because mid-June is probably, I would say the whole month of June is probably the toughest month on Green Bay. If you ever talk to anybody that fishes Green Bay, they dread fishing in June, simply because the fish kind of scatter, they disappear, and they make you work for them a little harder. So it gets interesting, but my guide schedule for the next couple of weeks here, I mean, I'm pretty much like booked all the way through May. Not only am I running guide trips here in the next coming weeks, but I'm also going to Erie for another week, which I leave for next Friday.
Nice.
next week the NWT is in town in Oshkosh here. So I'm probably going to be bombing around out there a few of those days, just kind of jumping around, helping some friends pre-fish and stuff for that.
On Bago, you're
But
saying?
yep, on Lake
Yeah.
Winnebago. So, and that's always a fun bite out there. That's a frustrating one. But when we get back from Erie, I also have a big tournament up on Green Bay too, out of Marinette. This one is that's the NTC National Teams Championship.
Yeah.
So I got a lot of stuff going on here, pretty much through the end of May, and then leading into June. I'm really hoping to start booking some salmon and trout fishing trips out on Lake
You
Michigan.
bet. Yep. And that's
So
like for everybody listening, that's like I'm from Milwaukee. I grew up in the Milwaukee Harbor, had a boat in McKinley Marina ever since I was born. And that's how I grew up was king salmon fishing. Back on my desk here, there's a little trophy that I got for the well, I don't know. Let me just grab it.
hey, there
Remember
it is.
remember having like little chapters of
Yep.
tournament groups or just fishing groups? This is a from 1993, a 23-pound, 8-ounce king salmon. And back then, that was a pretty big fish back then.
Yeah.
And now we're
That's
talking
a little
like
big
40
fish.
pounders up in Algoma. But yeah, there's
Yep.
my little thing for our little children's division of our Milwaukee chapter. That's wild. A&E Engraving, 1917 South Main Street, West Bend, Wisconsin. That's
Hey man,
amazing.
that's
For
awesome. I actually
1993.
didn't know that about you, to be honest.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, we had I don't know like a 25 or 26 foot like charter style boat right in McKinley.
Yep.
I mean every weekend that's how we spent our weekends was spending the night on the boat or spending the whole weekend on the boat, getting up at 3:30, going to rail on some kings, coming back in the harbor, catching brook trout, perch, smallmouth, big northerns. I mean that northern right behind me is from Summerfest Lagoon from 1996. And that was a
Yeah.
big pike for the lagoon back then.
I've caught some nice pike down there in that lagoon ice fishing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I caught that on a Hottentot up in the weeds. We were in
That's
like our
awesome.
little inflatable dinghy or like little Zodiac that my dad had that we would attach to our big charter style boat. And we would just
Yep.
run from McKinley to the lagoon in that. Man, God damn it. Those were the days.
That's freaking awesome, dude.
That was
Yeah,
fun. But anyway, yeah, Cody runs trips out of Milwaukee or just anywhere. It doesn't matter if it's Sheboygan, Milwaukee, whatever.
yeah.
For salmon in that time period, because I'm sure you probably don't want to drag crawler harnesses on 9 planer boards for
Uh,
walleyes when those fish go scattered, and especially once the mayflies hatch too up there
yeah, dude. It's
on Bago
just
especially. Ugh.
it's so much more fun to take clients out to Lake Michigan and let them experience that.
Yeah,
Because that is something that a lot of people actually, to my knowledge, do not know about. Like, there's a lot of people in the United States that don't know you can catch salmon in Lake Michigan.
hmm
There's people
they
that
always
think
think
that you
like
can only get
Alaska.
them, right. They're like, you can only get them in salt water.
Yeah,
No, they're in Lake Michigan. It's
yeah,
obviously stocked fishery, so it's a put and take fishery, but they're
yep.
there. And in my opinion, a king salmon has got to be one of the hardest fighting freshwater fish that you can encounter.
It's not even
You know,
close.
yeah, I mean, in to do it at like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning when that sun's just peeking up above the surface
Yeah.
and you hear a drag just take off, there's nothing similar to that you could do that gives you that adrenaline rush when you grab the rod and you just feel the power of it. And it's just going and not stopping.
I was gonna
You know?
say, you already have like 300 feet of line out, and then by the
Yeah.
time you can even reel, there's like 500 or 600 feet out, and you're like, all right, well, I'll see you in 45 minutes.
Yep. Yeah, so I love seeing the reaction on people's faces when I grab that rod out of the holder and I give it to them, and I adjust the drag a little bit and I tell them to hang on. And they're just like doing all they can, they're shaking,
Oh yeah,
trying to reel. It's like, that's the best,
and then they jump too. That's why I love kings too,
oh,
because like
heck
they'll
yeah.
come up and like just a couple times, like from deep water, just go.
Yep. Yeah, so yeah, it's crazy. And with the bite the way it is on Green Bay, obviously I'll still run trips on Green Bay in the month of June if I have to.
Yeah.
There's always a bite somewhere,
Sure.
that you can get
Yeah.
on out there and get eater fish. But a lot of people are really interested in that salmon thing. And I noticed that last year with some of the videos that I posted on YouTube, kind of just like reached the surface with the
Mm-hmm.
stuff that I posted on YouTube last year, around the whole salmon world. And there's hardly any videos on YouTube of Lake Michigan salmon fishing. I mean, there's
Yeah.
a few channels kind of starting up, but there's really not a whole lot out there. And I noticed that last year. So that's why I kind of started pushing it a little harder. And I noticed that the videos that I was posting, they started doing really well. A lot of the King videos were doing really well. I did some underwater stuff that started doing really well. And so this year I'm planning on taking that to a whole nother level.
Yeah.
I really want to
Dude,
see.
you gotta put Livescope down in the gaps and jig them on Livescope, because like there's not very many people that have Livescope. I mean, like Hadia does it, obviously jigging, but he
Right.
doesn't ever have footage of the Livescope stuff. So
Yep.
that's like you do that all the time when you have Livescope down. Get
Yep.
in the gaps and try and get. I mean, I know that bite's so blown out at this point, especially when it's good in like August, September, or whatever before they get on that skein bite. But
Yeah, I've posted a few videos down there in August in Port Washington, and I mean it's crazy. Even some of the charter captains down there, like when we're fishing the slips, which is completely legal,
mhm.
the the amount of grief you take
Oh
from
yeah,
charter captains on the docks. They just sit there and bitch and
yep,
yell at you and call the DNR on you and do all
yep.
sorts of. So it gets to the point where it's like, it's not even worth going.
I know.
It's not worth my time.
Yeah, I know.
But
Brennick did it. Brennick, did he fish with you? I don't know. He fished with somebody, or maybe he took his boat to one
yeah,
of the harbors too.
he got a weight thrown at his boat.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, he started. I don't know who it was, but he just started chucking weights at his boat.
Yep.
Basically because he was telling Jason that he wasn't allowed to fish in the slips, which you can't do. I mean, that's harassment.
Yeah.
And as long as they're not under power, they're not in their way.
Exactly.
He has all the right to fish there. So it's a public
Mhm.
waterway.
Yeah.
But
It's tough, but I mean, it's like it is what it is. I fished with Andrew Logan. I think it was like 3 years ago. I went up over my birthday. That was last. I was like right before we moved my grandparents down from Milwaukee to Kansas before they both died. And yeah, we fished skein, but that was no. We were in Racine and we were fishing skein in my boat in Racine. We fished for 8 hours. It was tough. I don't want to bobber fish. I only want to go fit. Only want to go bobber fish with Miguel in Port
yeah.
Washington. He's dialed.
Oh, dude, Miguel, he's been I'm on his shit list right now because he tried calling me all day and I didn't answer because I was busy fishing.
Well, he'll get over it.
Yeah, he will.
Mike, I hope you're watching.
Yeah, he told me I was breaking his heart.
That's just, well, sometimes it just be like that, but between
Hey,
buddies, you know?
I get payback when he came in up in O'Connell at Bucky's and he rolled that door up. Whew, that was freaking cold. Guy's just
Yeah.
trying to get some shut eye and he came in like a freaking bull.
Hey, you can't fuck with Miguel, dude.
Oh man, he wanted his boat out.
Yeah. But anyway, so then we kind of transition. So that's like, this is how my podcasts go. We like start on a topic and then I start drinking and then we digress and then we double back to it. So we're doing salmon trips throughout the summer, June, July. Obviously, that's like when it's super good on Lake Michigan for kings. But that's a nice thing. That's a fun part about Lake Michigan is like, yeah, you can say you're going for kings, but you're going to get big steelhead. You might get a big laker. Browns, maybe not so much yet, but like just big steelies too.
Yep.
On the big water is super fun. But then
Giants. Go ahead.
from there, we enter the magical month of August on the east side, which I will be there for this year. I will be there with my father.
I'm excited for you, dude. I am really excited. Have you ever experienced August on Green Bay?
No, I mean, the latest I've ever been up there was, 3 or 4 years that I went up to Door County for smallmouth, and that was like, late May, early June, and all those fucking fish were on bed. So it was like fun for like 5 minutes, and then I was like, okay, I got to start coming earlier. But this year I was like, we're going to skip the smallmouth, and we're going to go for August because you and Max cumulatively convinced me to take a week off in August. Oh no, I have to take a month off in the worst fucking month of Kansas fishing. A week to go up to Wisconsin and catch 30-inch, 32-inch walleyes on shiver minnows on the reefs.
Yeah. Dude, I mean, that's slowly become one of my favorite bites. I mean, I've been telling a couple of my buddies, I know like Jacob Sweary, I've been fighting with him, just about the fact that
Never heard of her. Never heard of Jacob Sweary. I'm just kidding,
Yeah.
Jacob. Love you, man.
Just the fact that fishing in August, in my eyes, fishing in August is way more fun than fishing in spring.
Yeah.
I love that I mean, it's a lot more of an aggressive approach than it is obviously in spring, you know, with the snap jigging and stuff like that.
Yeah, very intense.
I just love the cadences. I love the way you, you know, fish for those fish, and it's more of a reactionary style of presentation, and it's just more up and in their face. And I like that, you know, I like sharp shooting. And it's just, in my eyes, it's a lot more fun than spring. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely love catching, you know, like pre-spawn fish. I mean, just tanks. But Door County fish are built different, dude.
They are very, very much built different.
I mean,
and I'm not speaking from experience like I've done this before, but I have plenty of friends that I've been friends with for a very long time that follow everybody's careers just like yourself.
Yeah.
To know that those fish are there. Like the last time that I smallmouth fished with Brennick, we were fishing out of Ephraim, like literally just right out of the channel, like where the buoys leave that little marina right there.
Yeah.
And he's throwing a hair jig, and all of a sudden he catches like a 29 3/4 inch Door County walleye. I mean, we probably could have seen that fish if we were looking for it because it's so clear over there. But that was my first. I saw that fish in the clear water, and I was like, oh my god, that's like a 35-inch walleye. And then obviously, I mean, it wasn't that big, but that was my first Door County walleye experience was with Brennick. Like this, probably 3 years ago, like 2019, I think, maybe 2020. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
so that's why I was like, I mean, shallow stuff is fun, but I want to be out like where I almost can't see shore, or up, you know, like just in the islands area. I mean, it's not like super far from shore, but
yeah, I mean, it's just they're a different breed of fish up there. You know, it's those walleyes up there are more of a pelagic style of fish. You know, they're doing a lot of swimming. They're putting on a lot of miles over the summer. You know, throughout the transition of their migration pattern, they're swimming over deep water. I mean, they're swimming over 150 feet of water. They're eating alewives rather than gobies and stuff like me. I mean, they just get fat up there, man. It's just a bite that I feel like everybody should have to experience if you're going to be up on Green Bay. And I tell all my clients in the spring, like, hey, if you really want to, you know, get on an awesome bite, like I highly suggest checking out Green Bay in August. You don't even have to come with me.
Right.
Just book a trip with somebody in August because you'll absolutely love it.
Yeah. But at the same time, you have to be pretty relatively deadly with Livescope to be like, I mean, yes, you can run into fish blind casting reefs or whatever, but like to truly be deadly and be super dialed, it comes down to a Livescope bite.
Yeah.
And Max is a true testament. You're a true testament to that.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, Livescope's going to get you on fish that much faster. You could definitely do it without it, with, you know, traditional sonar and, you know, speed graphing and stuff like that over certain areas. But having that Livescope is just giving you the confidence that there's fish there. I mean, you could eliminate a piece of structure fairly quickly with Livescope compared to just blind casting at it for 30 minutes to realize there's nothing there, you know? So that's why there's a lot of people finding themselves a little more successful up there, basically just catching more fish in a day, because you don't get as many bites as you do in the spring, but those bites that you're getting are a lot more rewarding. So even though you find, you know, a couple fish on a piece of structure, if you can pluck one or two off that piece, dude, you're talking, you know, a potential 30-inch walleye,
right?
You know, so
30 or 32 or 33
or 33, you know, they're up there, dude. Like the biggest fish I've caught up in Door County on Green Bay is 32 1/4. You know, so there's just megas. And that same day, my buddy Matt that was fishing with me, we actually doubled up on 32s. His was 32 1/2 and mine was 32 1/4. We caught him.
I remember you told me that story that night. We kicked it.
I mean, and that's the one day I wish I would have had cameras in the boat.
I know. That's the best part about the story is that, like, no cameras, but we have the story.
I've got all
buck
the pictures
wild.
to prove it. Yeah, I've got all the pictures to prove it, but I
Yeah.
just for some reason didn't take cameras along the boat that day, and
Yeah.
it haunts me to this day yet. But it was still one of the best days I've ever had fishing up there.
And that was pre-Livescope or no?
That was live scope.
That was Livescope. Okay.
Yep. We didn't necessarily need it for the bite that we were doing, but we used it to find them, and then kind of because it was windy that day, so we used it to find them and then just
Right.
kind of spot locked so that
Yep.
we could cast at them.
That's
But
that's the kind of shit that I love. Is that's like a lot of what we do down here in Kansas too. Like big winds, big waves. Like, okay, I know there's a giant pot of fish 60 feet behind us, so go on the back of the boat and just cast in that direction. You're gonna catch
yep.
fish.
Dude, it's the best feeling when you tell a client, like you can see a pot of fish on Livescope, right? And you tell a client like, hey, cast 60 feet that way. They cast and then 2 seconds later they're hooked up.
Yep.
Like you just feel like God, but
I was literally gonna say like it puts me like way up here on a guide trip,
right.
and like I know it's gonna happen because I could pick up a rod and do the same thing. But like if somebody that has never thrown a swim bait or even casted a spinning reel, but they have the wind to their back, and even if you make a bad cast, it's probably gonna go halfway to the next county. But
Yeah.
it's in those fish, and they just like are reeling, and then all of a sudden like the fish bites. They don't even set the hook, but they just like load up on it, and
Yeah.
it's those are the days when it's good, when the wind's blowing and the
Yep.
fish are dumb and they're hungry, and put something in front
Yeah.
of them, especially in clear water up there. They're gonna come get it, you know.
Yep. Yeah, those days are good for business.
Yeah, big time. So what you're saying is just go to Door County, find a reef on the map, and throw a blue chrome jigging wrap, because that's what Max Wilson told me.
Yeah, well, that's all you need.
A
Well,
number 7 or a number 9 blue
yeah,
chrome jig wrap.
the whole depth jig thing's kind of becoming popular too.
I know. Max and I had that whole conversation about the death jig. We love it.
Yeah, yeah. It finally clicked for me last year after watching like Max and Isaac and those guys do it the last 2 years with Livescope, and I'm like, man, I have yet to figure it out. And a lot of times it's because I was on the boat like filming or fishing with Max and just kind of watching, never actually doing it. So it took until last year for me to just go on my own with the death jig all by myself in the boat and just figure out how to actually like get this thing, catching fish for me. And lo and behold, take that live scope unit, just look for pods of fish on a flat, calm day. You're pitching this jig at pods of fish, let it sink down in front of their faces, and it's essentially the same thing. I mean, they're a little more aggressive towards it because you got that scent of the crawler on there,
Right.
but you're just getting it in their faces, and that's the biggest thing when it comes to trying to catch fish or pluck fish out of that warmer water or that deeper water, where they're maybe a little bit more lethargic. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It's something else up there, man. You're gonna love it. I'm excited for you to come up and be up here for August.
Me too. Well, and the death jig is going to become very important for my dad, because I know he's not going to want to be ripping a jig wrap like this, the whole time. So to get him on that, death jig bite would be a lot easier. Have you ever thought about maybe trying like the new half of a Berkeley Gulp night crawler on a death jig, or do you think that real night crawler is what seals the deal, especially on those pressured giant fish in clear water?
Dude, it's funny you say that because I have about, probably 150 of those SR crawlers sitting in my workbench right now.
I haven't put them in the boat yet.
Yeah, I have them to take with me because I'm going to try them on harnesses out in Erie next week. But so they make the 7-inch version of the worm, and then they also make a 4-inch version.
That I have the 4-inch version.
Yeah,
because we run a lot of slow death, like not the harness version, but the slow death, just like the half crawler.
I mean, I have reason to believe that it would work. I mean, there's really, I take it with a grain of salt there too, but I really listened to Corey Springle talk about those baits, and it really came down to the scent on the crawler is really all the walleye knows or wants, right? Because
exactly,
a walleye's like actually never seen a night crawler.
Literally,
like,
that's what I tell clients too.
Yeah, it's not their main forage.
Yeah,
so it'll be interesting to see how those actually work on the death day. I'm definitely going to try it.
Sure.
I think the biggest thing is how long the scent will hold
right
on that crawler, for you being successful with it. So that's that's gonna be what it comes down to. But I'm really excited to try it though.
Yeah. That's a question that I get a lot from people. Like I am starting a week ago all the way up till the end of June. I'm like a certified night crawler, like farmer, basically in
Yeah.
my garage fridge of keeping an endless amount of real night crawlers. And everybody's like, well, why don't you have you tried the gulp crawlers, or why don't you try this? And so this year was the first year, especially since they came out with that 4-inch version for a lot of what we do for the slow death stuff versus, the double hook harnesses, to
Yeah.
just try it and just see, like, run. I mean, we run 4 bottom bouncer rods in the boat, just do 2 with real ones and 2 with the gulp and see what happens. But I just figured maybe it would be a little different up there, considering these fish are very pressured. The water's clear. They're big and they're very smart and they're old. So
Yeah.
I guess I'll be
I
anxious to
mean,
see too.
it is kind of so that's kind of the nicer thing about Door County, dude, is it's at least right now, it's not Ocano. Like
Yeah.
there ain't that many boats up there.
Well,
There really
it depends on the place, because I've talked to Miguel in the last several times in the last couple weeks, and you've got Tom Boley up there, obviously,
Yeah,
showing
in the
all the
spring.
backgrounds, Hendersons, and all the
Yeah,
hot spots.
right. In the spring it might be a little more pressured, but
Okay, yeah, sure, that's where I
when you
fucked
get
up.
into
Yeah.
August, especially like a little further north,
Mm-hmm.
you don't come across as many boats. I
Right.
mean, you'll definitely have your days on the weekends where it's like flat calm and you'll just get a lot of like pleasure boaters out there. But
Yeah.
as far as boat traffic compared to the spring, it's dude, it's almost next to nothing. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's not bad.
Yep.
And that's why going up there is just so much fun. You don't have to deal with a ton of people. Yeah, you can do whatever you want on the boat. You can film, you can scream. You don't have to be worried about being too loud.
Right.
The only time that those areas up there in Door County see a ton of pressure is when you have tournaments.
Yep.
On a Sunday tournament day or a Saturday tournament day, that's when you'll see a ton of boats up there. But otherwise, it doesn't get too pressured. Now the west side, like over by O'Connell
Yeah.
and on the shoal and all that, that still gets heavily pressured in August.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously because people are out there looking for meat. They're looking to put a nice bag of fish in their live well, which is
Yeah.
what you can do over there.
5 over
Um,
15, call it good.
yeah. But when you go to Door County, man, I mean, you're strictly like trophy fish.
Yep.
I mean, we don't keep nothing up there.
No.
So yeah. So I mean, it keeps a lot of those meat hunters away and it doesn't get pressure too bad.
Well, and O'Connell Shoals, what, like a quarter of a mile south of Breakwater, if that? Like that last day
Yeah.
that we were there were a ton of boats on the shoal because there were a bunch of fish there. And then,
Yeah.
I heard from other guys that guys were fishing south of Breakwater, but the shoal really isn't that far from Breakwater. So in a small boat, somebody could just go and access that, catch their 5 fish, and then just be
Yep.
done with it.
And they do. Like I took my grandpa there once last year, actually a couple times. I was there, but I took my grandpa there once last year to fish like O'Connell Shoal and just try to get a nice day of fishing. And we weren't really planning on keeping many. He was going to keep maybe 2 or 3 just to take home.
Yeah.
I didn't need it. I never keep any fish, so I was just going out for fun, try and film a video and stuff. And on this particular day, it was almost flat calm, and there was just loads of people out there. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, the shoal was just loaded with people trolling in and over fish. Like
Oh,
people were
God.
tangling boards up, and I pulled up. I pulled up with Garmin in with all intentions to cast at these fish because there's just so many fish. There's like no need to troll. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you could get your 5 fish casting in less than an hour if you knew how to do it. Like,
Yeah.
you know. So I pulled up to the shoal and it's just loaded. And I put my Livescope unit down, dude. I shit you not. I'm watching these boats go by, literally, 20, 30 yards away from me. I'm watching these fish just scatter from their
Yep.
boats,
Mm-hmm.
scattering from their boats, from their planer boards, and nobody's catching anything. And I looked at my grandpa and I'm like, there's no way in hell we'll be able to fish these fish. I'm like, there's people driving over fish that have no idea they're spooking fish, driving over fish. I'm like, they're just going to drive around in circles for hours,
Right.
hopefully picking up 5,
Yep.
by noon. So it's like, I told him, I said, fuck this. I said, we're going to go do something different. Obviously, if there's fish here, there's going to be fish somewhere else because these fish are leaving. So we kind of pulled off probably a couple hundred yards. I found a bunch of small little humps that nobody was fishing, just
Mm-hmm.
away from all the boat traffic. Dude, I shit you not. I pulled up on this, just a tiny little hump. It's the smallest hump that I've ever fished. It was just shit stacked with fish. Now they weren't all obviously there's some sheephead mixed in,
Yeah, big
but it
time.
was just like Garmin it was just a ball of fish, and I'm like, holy shit. So I spot locked this right on it. I told my grandpa, like, we were casting death jigs that day.
Oh, okay.
I told him, I said, cast 30 feet in front of the boat, let it hit the bottom, just give it a nice little pop and then a slow retrieve. Dude, it was almost every fucking cast we were catching
Nice.
walleye. I mean, you could see kind of a lot of the sheephead were up, kind of suspended a little bit,
Sure.
but a lot
Yeah.
of those walleyes were a little closer to bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, man, we ended up just lighting fish up, and I filmed an awesome video. I ended up posting it on my channel, and dude, I mean, for the 4 or 5 hours we were out there, we just lit fish up.
You catch big
One of
perch on those shoals too, then mixed in with the walleyes yet, or
Yeah,
no? Or is it too
yeah,
late?
they're mixed. Yeah, they're definitely mixed in, big ones too.
Oh yeah.
The year class of perch right now on Green Bay is amazing. Like
Oh
you're
yeah.
catching 13s, sometimes even 14, 15-inch perch. You know, it's incredible how big those perch out there are getting, but it's just filthy with walleyes during certain times of the year. And if you can
Mm-hmm.
hit them right, oh, but I think it's just incredible to see, just all the boats on the shoal and how uneducated some of the people that were fishing it were. It
Weird.
was
It
just,
sounds so oddly familiar to what I
yeah,
deal with on a daily basis down here. They're like, oh,
it's
look,
incredible.
there's 9 boats over there. Let's just slide on in. I have no idea what's over there, but there's boats there. We're just going to work
Yeah.
our way right in. Oh, he's not fishing. He's got 4 guys in his boat. He's a guide. Let's fish right there next to him.
It's incredible, dude.
Now his net's in the water, so let's move 10 feet closer.
Yep, right. But I mean, yeah, that's one of the biggest things, especially on Green Bay, is like you find those huge crowds. A lot of times those fish are just going to be scattered
That's what I
around.
mean. The same goes for anywhere though, like shallow fish, clear water. Doesn't matter if it's dirty, if it's shallow, or if it's deep, whatever. Like those fish are not stupid. They're only getting smarter. They can
Yep.
feel the trolling motors. They can feel the sonar. They can feel the Livescope pings. That's
Yep.
like the same with Okano. Like when I caught that big one behind me, there were so many boats and I was like I'm just like, God, dude. So I was like moving north. It was up by, I don't think, man, I'd have to look at the map. I mean, I know the waypoint, but it was like, it wasn't the marsh, but it was close to breakwater, but there's like a bridge and there's like a little inflow, but there was like a gap between north of that and south of that. And I was like moving the boat north to get away from the crowd. And I made one cast and my boat was still moving. I saw fish on side imaging and I hit spot lock. I made one cast and then like my second or third pull on like a 90-foot cast, of course, I hooked this fish as the boat is still spot locking with a west wind. So like my ass end was facing towards the ocean and then my nose obviously was facing towards the marsh. And then I set the hook and I'm like, oh, it doesn't feel that big. And then like 3 minutes later, I'm like, oh, it's a
Yeah.
giant. It's a giant. It's a giant. It's my PB. Like everyone makes fun of me for that video.
It's a giant. Yeah, I remember. I remember watching that one.
Yeah, everybody does. Don't worry. But I'm not apologizing for it because that was my first big
No,
one.
dude, don't. That's what it's all about, dude. Like
Yeah,
anybody that's coming to Green Bay for the first time and is catching big walleyes, like you're not getting that feeling back after you do it a few times. Like
true.
you gotta enjoy it when you got it, because after you do it so many times, you almost become numb to it, you know?
Well, and that's like the first like big fish that I caught on the trip in April was a 27 and a half. And in the video, I didn't even like bat an eye. I was just like, DJ might want to get the net. I'm like, he's like, oh, that's a giant. I'm like, man, it's not that big. And then I was like, oh, it's 27 and a half. It's a big one. And then
Yeah.
the second biggest one that I caught was at 29 on a double with my buddy with his 25 and a half and like all the way to the net. I'm like, it's not that big. And my buddy DJ is like freaking out. Like, it's a giant. I'm like, it's like whatever. And then I put it on the board. I'm like, oh yeah, it's like actually pretty decent. But
Yeah.
but I also caught a 30 and a half on our first day there. So after that, I was like, meh. And then I caught the fucking sturgeon.
You accomplished what you got. You got the 30. You accomplished what you went there for, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Big time. I mean, that's like my PB by length, not by weight, because that one behind me is 30 and that was 11 and a quarter. And that 30 and a half was 10 and 3/4. So
Oh, yeah.
August is all about the 32. Because like I'm having a replica made of that 30 and a half from this guy I follow on Instagram from Iowa. And my wife was like, You're getting another one? And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of how it works.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, I got 4 fish on my wall. 2 of them are over 30. Uh, the other 2 were just 20. One was 28 and a half, and the other one was 29, but they're just ungodly fat.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I want that pre-spawn gut. But if I got a giant, if I had a 32 from Door County, just for the coloration alone, 100% would have a replica done.
Oh
Because
yeah,
it'll look
dude.
a little bit different than that one behind me.
Wait, yeah, it'll look way. I mean, you get a real dark gold tint with some zebra mussel scars on there.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, I'm all
yeah,
about it.
you're getting me excited now for August, and we still got a couple months to go.
Hey, man, I feel like for both of us, this May, June time period is going to go by in a freaking just lightning bolt. It's going to go by so fast. And I take July off. Like Danny and I have our honeymoon in July, and then I have 2 weeks off after that because July in Kansas just sucks ass. But then yeah, we'll be up there. I don't know. I forget. It's like the 13th through the 18th or 17th. We're up there for a full 5 days. We're staying at, I don't know if I told you this. I remember telling Miguel this, but we're staying at Sand Bay, right there in the channel, just because it was easy. And all the Airbnbs up in Door County like book up so fast and they're so fucking expensive. So
Nice.
we'll just
Yeah.
make the trip
Sand
from
Bay.
Sand Bay Beach Resort and drive up to, Sister Ephraim or whatever we got to do to get up by you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's not bad. I mean, hell, even on days where you get like some northeast winds or something, dude, there's a good bite down by where you're staying too.
yeah, but either, I mean, it's like, dude, it's a place on the water. There's a boat landing right there. So if we have like a calm, super calm day, I'll be like, Dad, we're gonna, because I'll have the new Lund. I mean, the Lund is literally in Kansas right now, the new boat. So I'll have it here in the next couple weeks. But like, I told him, like, if we get a calm day, we can run from Sturgeon Bay, the channel, all the way up wherever we want to go. Just make a whole day out of it and just blast up there.
Yep.
Because
Yeah,
I did. That was the story I forgot to tell you on that night too. The first time I took him up to Door County for smallmouth when we were staying around Sister Bay area. I love going to Washington Island. And the day that we went to Washington Island, I saw the winds in the morning, but I didn't look at the winds for the afternoon. And like we got up, went to Washington Island, fished Peterson's Bay all day, caught so many fish. And then when we had to come back, because we put in at Gills Rock, my dad was pissed. That was my old boat too, my old Illumicraft, dude. He was, oh my God, we got our asses kicked going from Washington Island to Gills Rock. Like it was almost sketchy for a second. I was like,
Yeah.
fuck, dude, I don't want to have to call the Coast Guard.
Yeah. Oh, fuck.
It's a
Dude,
fun run though. I love going from Gills Rock to Washington Island. I mean, that is like the furthest point in Wisconsin before you're in the UP pretty much on that side. So
Yep. Yeah.
do you catch walleyes up by Gills Rock ever? Like in that same area?
Have I been?
Mm-hmm. Have you ever gone up that far to catch walleyes?
I have been on the very tip of the peninsula, but I haven't gone any further than that.
Yeah. That's, I mean, that's big water. And plus I feel like Washington Island, there's not too much of a like tapering break. I feel like it's all just like an island and it's just
Pretty
it's
straight
deep water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which you can catch fish on. You know, I've fished up by Death's Door a few times, but I normally don't go that far just because I don't have to. But
Yeah.
I mean, man, with the currents, I mean, because you're messing with a lot of current up there too.
Oh yeah.
Around the peninsula and around the island. So on certain days where you got, a north wind or something coming down the pipe and that current's pushing just right, you can get some nasty shit in there.
Yep.
That, like you said, can make you pucker a little bit. But
Yeah. I feel like, I don't know.
yeah.
I feel like Spencer Samplowski fishes up that way just to get away from people. You know what I mean?
He does.
Like
Yeah. I'm sure. I've heard that he does, but I mean, he's kind of all over the place too. I've seen him in various places. I've even seen him fucking down in Florida before. So I mean, that guy's kind of
really?
everywhere.
When he's in Florida, you were there at the same time?
Yeah. Well, I was down there fishing with my buddy Dave Nelson because he guides for tarpon out of Naples.
Yeah.
And we were down there fishing, and he was in a boat that whole week that we were down there.
Nice.
So I see that guy everywhere, but
He's cool. I've kicked it with him at his old place. When I was like staying at a Airbnb in Sister, that was like a quarter of a mile from where he used to live, like his old shop.
Yeah.
He's cool.
Yep. A lot of good fishing to be had up there.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we'll kind of wind this down. So, what are the future plans here? You got anything big planned for the next year? Getting married or engaged, maybe?
Oh gosh. Well, if
Put you on the spot.
hopefully she's not watching this. But yeah, I mean,
You
it's
don't
gonna
even have to
happen.
answer that. That was mostly in jest, but I'm just talking about fishing stuff. So we're going from
Yeah.
May, June, July, August, walleye now, salmon, and then August, and then the rest of the year. But just keep vamping up the guide schedule and just let things go however they're going to go.
Yep, pretty much. Yeah. Once we make it through the rest of summer here in August, we'll kind of start rolling back into ice fishing season. I got another trip planned to Lake Erie in December.
Oh,
Uh,
nice. Nice.
never been out there that late in the year, but yeah, I mean, as far as that are some bigger things happening for me. I actually, I there's a possibility I might be fishing the National Walleye Tour next year.
With who?
Uh,
Are you gonna be the boater and then do you draw a co-angler on those, or it's not
yep.
like NWT or
No.
the
Yeah.
team trail?
Yeah, so it's you sign up. I'm actually going to sign up as a pro, so I'm going to
Nice.
fish all the tournaments as a pro. But for each tournament you can have a co-angler sign up with you,
Okay.
and then that's co-angler gets put into a pool, and then like the day before the tournament, all the pros will pull names, out of that pool of co-anglers, and then whoever's name you pull is your co-angler for that
Hmm.
day. And then after day one, it resets. So then you'll
Okay.
pull a name after day one, and then whoever you pull be your co-angler for the next day too. So it's pretty neat how it all works. Obviously, the pros compete against each other, and then the co-anglers compete against each other too.
Right. Yeah, that'll
So,
be fun. Well, I'll be pulling for you. I would love to see you take Max's money like once or twice on that.
hey, hey, yeah, that would be awesome.
That's awesome,
But
man. I'm super. I hope that you do that because that'll be super fun to watch. Because I know you fish it enough and deserve it, and that'll be
yeah,
fucking awesome. So
yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. It's gonna be a little change of pace, seeing as though I don't do a whole lot in the tournament world. I've definitely fished my fair share of tournaments, but to jump in a tournament of this size and this caliber is gonna be fun and a
yeah.
learning experience for sure. So
Well, it's nice up there too because I feel like like me fishing tournaments down here as a guide in a state where there's really not too many tournament anglers and there's not like a super crazy amount of guides like there is in Wisconsin. Like I always have a target on my back if I ever fish tournaments like, "Oh, he's a guide. He should be winning all of these." But up there it's
right,
like, "You're a guide. Well, guess what? Maybe 50% of the field also is, in the off
right,
season." So,
yeah,
it's a little more
yeah,
fun like that.
yeah. You hit it right on the head with that. There's definitely no shortage of guides here in Green Bay.
Mhm.
So
Well, cool, man. Well, that'll be fun to watch. Well, just kind of tie this up here, but so yeah, for everybody listening, if you haven't already, I will link everything down below. Cody's YouTube channel, Facebook, Instagram, and then I'll have his contact info for guiding as well. Because I think Cody, you had somebody in your boat that I referred to you recently, or somebody who has a trip. I don't remember what the situation
yeah,
was.
yeah. They booked a trip. I think this spring. They came up and fished via your recommendation.
Yep, I forget who it was, but I'm sure they're
Yeah, I don't
probably
know.
listening. But either way, all of Cody's information is going to be down below. So if you guys want to see more walleye content, any salmon content, especially the Livescope stuff, then go subscribe and follow all of Cody's social media outlets because it's been a fun couple years of knowing you, and I'm glad that we got to meet for the first time, even though it was at midnight when we were both dead ass tired and about to die for the
Yeah,
day.
that's what it's all about, man.
But when I get it back up there in August, it'll be fun. I'm really looking
Hell
forward to
yeah.
that and hooking up with you and Max as well to hopefully put my dad on his first 30-inch walleye, which I think is an attainable goal for the
Oh
week that
yeah.
we've got up there. So
Yeah, it'll happen. Especially if you have a week. I would almost guarantee that it'll happen.
yeah, big time. And you don't hear us guides say guarantee very often, but we're going to hold Cody to that one right there. He said the G word, and it's not guide. So
if you don't make it happen, I'll jump in the water in one of my videos or something up there before you leave.
You don't have. My dad would just blame it on himself, like presented all these opportunities at big fish, and he just fucks it up.
Yeah, if you knock it off with a net or something too, like hey,
that's right. I will actually. That will make great content. We'll look forward to that one. All right, man. Yeah. Well, thanks for taking the time tonight. I know we're both. Well, tomorrow is my only day off this week, so I got a lot of shit to do, and I'm looking forward to just hanging out with my wife tonight. And I know you've got your own at home, so I appreciate the time. And like I said before, for all you guys watching, everything will be linked below. Go subscribe to his channel and follow him on social media. And it won't be the last time that you see Cody on this podcast, like I say to everybody. But I like talking to Cody, and we like talking to each other. So
absolutely appreciate it, man.
All right, man. Well, thanks again. And we'll end this podcast here. So thank you guys for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks, Cody.
See you in August, bro.
See you, bud. Yep, you bet.